Well, welcome back to the Prospect Hub. We talk about Mets prospects here, and a former prospect that has gotten a invitation to spring training is a player that was a prospect. He was a big prospect, and that is catcher Kevin Parada, who the Mets drafted in the first round in 2022, and he was considered a very good prospect, but it just hasn't worked out. And I'm going to give you a preview of what he has done in his career with the Mets and what's expected. He is going to get a lot of playing time in spring training, I would think. And of course, he's still with the Mets. That wasn't a given in 2026. The Mets left Parada off the 40-man roster in December, leaving him vulnerable in the Rule 5 draft. Even though Parada hasn't developed in the way that a lot of scouts originally projected, leaving a former first-round pick vulnerable in the Rule 5 draft is a risky move. Ultimately, other teams passed on him, and he entered camp competing for third on the Mets catcher depth chart behind Francisco Alvarez and Luis Torrens. So he has a shot to be on the depth chart. That's the best he can do, unless there's massive injuries to the Mets catching core. The Mets drafted Parada 11th overall in 2022 out of Georgia Tech. Parada was coming off an absurd collegiate season, slashing .360 with a .452 on base percentage, .709 slugging percentage, over 305 plate appearances. He then played 13 games in the Mets system, split between rookie and low A ball, hitting .275, .455, .425 slugging percentage. His ability to get on base turned heads, with the Major League publications naming him a top 100 prospect before the 2023 season. Baseball America had him number 50, Major League Baseball had him number 36, and Baseball Prospectus had him number 64. And the overall belief was that he was the Mets' number 2 best catching prospect. With Francisco Alvarez making his Major League debut in 2022, the Mets didn't have to rush Parada's development. Parada was largely successful the next season at Brooklyn, hitting .265 with a .340 on base, .447 slugging percentage. Not as head turn as previous season, but still solid hitting for a catcher. A late season promotion to Binghamton became a harbinger. Parada only hit .185 with a .250 on base, .389 slugging percentage, over 60 plate appearances. He spent all of 2024 in Binghamton and did a bit better, hitting .214, .304, .359. Two things happened in 2025 that set the stage for Parada to have an opportunity in 2026. Parada had a largely successful stint with Binghamton, hitting .254 to .326 on base, .429 slugging percentage. Meanwhile, Mets tested their catching depth and had to rely on Hayden Senger. Senger, drafted in 2018, filled a need for the Mets, but fell short of his bat. He was terrible offensively. Senger ended the season playing in 33 games, getting 78 plate appearances with a 20 OPS plus. That means he was 80% worse than the average major leaguer. He is currently on the Mets' 40-man roster as the third catcher. Senger, he's a very good defensive player, but he's considered the Mets' best defensive catcher in the minor league system. And he was working at Whole Foods when the Mets brought him up. A major reason Senger got the opportunity of Parada's defense. Senger's a strong blocker and frame, and his 1.89 pop time in the majors last season was in the 91st percentile. Meanwhile, there were 78 successful stolen base attempts against Parada in 83 games last year, which is actually down from 89 in 73 games in 2024 and 129 in 72 games in 2023. Parada is also a below-average blocker. If Parada can get off to a hot start in spring and put together a solid campaign in Syracuse, he could make a case to eventually get on the 40-man roster. After Alvarez and Torrens, the Mets' depth chart right now is probably Senger, Austin Barnes, and then Kevin Parada. Injuries to catching depth across the league will dictate if Austin Barnes stays with the Mets by the end of spring training. But that's a conversation for a future NRI, it doesn't matter, preview. Behind Parada on the depth chart is 21-year-old Chris Suaro, who made it to Binghamton last season after putting an .837 OPS and 301 plate appearances in Brooklyn. Suaro is too far away from the majors right now to leapfrog Parada in a short-term 40-man roster stint. It feels like the conditions are set for Parada to make it on the 40-man roster at some point this season. Can the former top prospect seize the opportunity when it arrives? I disagree with that. I completely disagree with that. Chris Suaro had a tremendous year for the Binghamton club and he went crazy in the Arizona Fall League. I believe he's ahead of Parada on this depth chart. I completely disagree with this. In my opinion. Just because he's been in the organization longer does not mean that he's ahead of Chris Suaro. Chris Suaro can play first. He can play. He can play behind the plate. He can play left field. He's got speed. He's got power. He is a very good prospect. He is a prospect that could step forward very quickly this year. He could be a top 10 prospect. It's a top 15, 20 prospect. But because he's a catcher, and the fact that he can catch a little bit puts him in a different stratosphere than Parada. Parada is not on the prospect list at all. He's off of it. He was off it last year. Chris Suaro is a different story. And Chris Suaro is a guy that has the belief that he's got tremendous character, that he's really well liked in the organization. Parada, from what I've heard from one of my subscribers, A Prodigy, he didn't get along with the coaches. Doesn't get along. He doesn't take instruction well. That's a major problem, obviously. But Suaro is a tremendous prospect. He's got a chance to be on this Mets team this year, just due to the fact that he's as versatile as he is, and he can do multiple things offensively. Not that he can just hit, but he can run, play multiple positions, and behind the plate. So I totally disagree with this assessment on the Mets catching depth. And to be honest with you, Parada is behind a couple other catchers on this depth chart as well. Just in general, he's not a prospect anymore. So why would you go crazy? And other teams didn't pick him up. Other teams could have drafted him. But you're going to take a chance on a guy that hasn't played well and has got a lousy attitude? But that's my opinion based on the things that I've read and things that I've been told. But you let me know what you think about this video. And of course, this is a video talking about what we have to look forward to with Kevin Parada in particular. But Parada has things here which is interesting, because when he got drafted, the talk was that if he didn't make it as a catcher, that the Mets would put him in, they would put him in the outfield. But his offense has not really taken shape. He was a guy that was thought of as a guy that could hit and get on base, got power. But he's not shown that. Now, 2 years ago, they played a lot, or the last year or two, they've been playing a lot of games on SNY, and I've seen a lot of his games. His bat looks slow, okay? And the at-bats that I've seen, it's not a lot of at-bats, but he can't catch up to a good fastball. The bat looks slow, in my opinion. It's not as educated as it would be getting if he was in the majors with the Mets, but the things that I've seen with Parada, his bat is a little slow. And you could tell. You could tell if it's fast or not by how he fouls the ball off, if he can hit the ball hard. There's some issues there with that bat, whether it's fast enough, in my opinion. Well, thank you for watching this video. Of course, please subscribe to the Prospect Hut and follow me on Facebook, and I'll see you later.